Welcome, everyone. We are jumping into a brand new deep dive today, and I'm really excited you're here joining us as a fellow learner.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating one.
It is. So for you listening, we've got our hands on some incredible source material today. It's this highly specialized macro socioeconomic and environmental health presentation.
Right, originally put together for top-tier analysts, looked specifically at North America.
Exactly. And it's built on just this massive foundation of regional data. We are talking decades of economic, demographic, and health metrics.
The amount of data in this deck is genuinely staggering.
It really is. And our mission today is to decode what this presentation calls the paradox of prosperity.
Which is a great title, honestly.
Right. So we are going to look beneath the shiny surface of North America's economic dominance. We want to uncover these hidden structural crises that are, well, they're silently reshaping society, health, and honestly, the future.
Because on the surface, everything looks fantastic.
Exactly. Which brings us to the hook. Okay, let's unpack this. How does a region get vastly richer, but fundamentally sicker?
That is the core question. Because the data on slide 1 completely shatters this fundamental assumption we all have about modern development.
And what assumption is that exactly?
Well, we operate on this deeply ingrained, almost subconscious linear model, right? More capital equals better technology, which equals better health.
Which makes sense logically.
It does. And for a long time, historically speaking, that equation held true. When a society moves from agrarian poverty to industrial wealth, you get an influx of capital.
Right, you build sanitation systems.
Exactly. You develop antibiotics, you fund surgical interventions, and baseline health metrics like maternal mortality, they plummet.
But that's not what's happening here, is it?
No, not at all. The data we are looking at shows a terrifying divergence.
Let's get into the actual numbers for the listener because it's wild. Over the last few decades, North America's GDP per capita has skyrocketed.
Tracing a near-perfect upward curve.
Right, jumping from roughly $3,000 to over $70,000.
In current U.S. dollars, yeah.
Yeah.
A completely vertical wealth curve.
But alongside this incredible wealth accumulation, maternal mortality rates, which, is a core indicator of a society's baseline health, they haven't dropped.
They've actually done the opposite.
Yeah, they have nearly tripled.
Spiking from 11.0 to 30.0 per 100,000 live births.
I mean, 11 to 30, that is, I just want the listener to pause and think about that. How is that mathematically possible?
It feels like it shouldn't be. High economic output and massive healthcare expenditure should theoretically yield world-class baseline health outcomes.
Right, we aren't talking about a lack of resources here.
No, we have the most advanced medical infrastructure in human history. So this discrepancy breaks that traditional assumption. More money is clearly not equaling better health.
So what does that say about a civilization? When its most vulnerable foundational medical event, childbirth, becomes more dangerous as the society gets richer?
It suggests something is fundamentally broken at the structural level. The wealth is either being misallocated or, and this is the darker possibility, the actual nature of modern prosperity is inherently toxic to biological health.
Okay, I want to use an analogy here for you listening. Imagine you upgrade your home with a state-of-the-art, multi-million-dollar security system.
Right, cameras everywhere.
Exactly, the best of the best. But suddenly, your break-in rate triples.
You wouldn't just buy more cameras.
No, you wouldn't. You'd realize the foundation of the house itself is somehow compromised. The doors are missing, or the walls are caving in.
That is exactly what we are seeing in the macro data.
So to understand why the foundation is cracking, we first have to look at the sheer weight of the economic engine sitting on top of it.
Because that engine is massive. North America remains a global wealth behemoth.
Yeah, looking at slide 2, adjusted net national income and total GDP show this exponential, uninterrupted long-term growth.
It's a perfectly functioning capitalist engine on paper. Furthermore, it remains an absolute global capital hub.
We're talking about foreign direct investment, right? FDI.
Yes. The FDI inflows and outflows are moving in the hundreds of billions of dollars. We're talking immense volatility and sheer volume.
Which highlights just how hyperactive the market is.
Exactly. It shows the extreme global asset allocation capabilities of corporations in this region. They are extracting and moving wealth with unprecedented efficiency.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting for me, and maybe you at home are wondering this too. If the capital is flowing so smoothly, right?
Right.
And the net national income is literally in the trillions, shouldn't this wealth be acting as a buffer against societal decay?
You would think so.
Yeah. Why isn't this money fixing the problems? Why aren't those trillions stopping maternal mortality from tripling?
Because absolute size does not equal resilience.
Okay, unpack that.
Well, we are looking at financialization,
Mm-hmm.
money making money. And that doesn't necessarily translate to human well-being.
Ah, so it's decoupled from actual human needs.
Precisely. The wealth is undeniably there, but it's accumulating at the top. It's suspended in this abstracted, financialized metal layer.
So it never actually touches the ground floor where public health lives.
Exactly. It's masking the rotting structural pillars underneath. You have this glittering skyline of capital, but the foundation holding it up is quietly buckling.
And the most vital of those rotting pillars isn't financial, is it?
No, it's human.
Right. So let's look at the people actually powering this economy. Because the demographic data in this deck is, well, it's a time bomb.
That is not an overstatement. There has been an irreversible structural shift in the population,
Yeah, the 65 and older demographic has straight up doubled.
rising from 8.7% to a historic high of 17.69%.
So basically pushing 18% of the entire population being over 65.
Yes, the society is rapidly aging. And aging at that scale operates as a profound macroeconomic weight.
Because it requires a massive reallocation of capital toward end-of-life care and pensions, right?
Exactly. But that's only half the demographic crisis,
Right, because simultaneously, the total fertility rate has just fallen off a cliff.
dropping from a high of 3.66 children per woman down to 1.57.
1.57. And just as a reminder for you listening, the natural replacement level just to keep a population stable without immigration is 2.1.
Right. So 1.57 is far below natural replacement. The internal growth engine has completely run out of fuel.
Which brings us to how these two data points connect. The dependency ratio crisis.
Yes, this is a brutal mathematical consequence. The old age dependency ratio has surged from 14.5% to a staggering 27.9%.
Let me translate that for the listener because it's wild. That means for every single elderly person requiring support, there are now fewer than 4 working-age people to support them.
And historically, that ratio was much higher. You had a wide base of workers supporting a small tier of retirees.
Right, like a traditional pyramid.
Exactly. But now the economic burden of elder care, pensions, and medical support is quietly crushing this shrinking working class base.
So for you listening, picture a seesaw.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Thanks. So picture a seesaw where the weight keeps sliding to one side. The workforce is on the other side, desperately trying to balance it out.
But gravity, or in this case, time and aging, is winning.
Right. It's a self-reinforcing downward spiral. The heavier the burden on the youth, the less likely they are to feel financially secure enough to have kids.
Which drops the fertility rate even further.
Exactly. So with fewer workers carrying a heavier load, we really have to ask, what exactly are these remaining workers doing for a living?
That brings us to slide 6, which covers the labor market. And it is radically polarized.
Yeah, industrial employment has basically withered away. It's down to around 19%.
And agriculture is even more extreme. It has been incredibly compressed to under 3% of the workforce.
Less than 3%. That is just a stunning level of consolidation.
It is. They rely on extreme hyper-mechanization to produce massive grain yields. But meanwhile, the service sector has absolutely exploded.
Right, accounting for nearly 80% of all employment, like 79.44% to be exact.
Which makes the economy incredibly vulnerable. It's a hollowed-out workforce.
How so?
Well, while a tiny fraction of the population handles the physical bedrock of survival food and manufacturing, the vast majority are doing entirely different tasks.
Right, they're pushing papers, writing code, pouring coffee.
Exactly. And a service-dominated economy relies on complex supply chains that are highly fragile.
And there's a huge anomaly in this labor data too, right? Regarding the youth.
Yes, slide 10 highlights the NEET data, N-E-E-T.
Which stands for not in employment, education, or training.
Correct. Despite massive investments in education and a literacy rate over 99%, 11 to 15% of youth aged 15 to 24 are classified as NEETs.
And the presentation notes that female NEET rates have historically peaked even higher, around 18%.
Which is a massive red flag. A society with an astronomical GDP is somehow failing to integrate over a tenth of its next generation.
So what does this all mean for the listener? If we have this highly educated youth population, why are so many just checking out of the system entirely?
It's likely because the hyper-competitive, service-dominated economy has raised the barrier to entry so incredibly high.
Right, it's not just getting a high school diploma anymore.
No, it often requires degrees, unpaid internships, constant networking, and the reward is often a gig economy job with no stability.
So the math just doesn't make sense for them anymore.
Exactly. And a significant portion simply detach. This represents a massive, long-term bleed of human capital and innovation.
It's tragic, honestly, but even for the 80% who are in the service sector, it's not like they're thriving biologically, right?
Far from it. This sedentary, service-based, highly stressed lifestyle isn't just an economic issue. It is actively altering the physical environment and the human body.
Which brings us to the hidden costs on slide 7, the environmental toll.
Right. The presentation introduces the concept of adjusted net savings.
Which takes a huge hit, doesn't it?
It does. When you look at the raw gross national income, it looks huge.
Yeah.
But then you have to deduct the cost of energy depletion.
And particulate emission damage,
Yeah.
specifically PM2.5.
It's exactly. Despite transitioning to a service economy, the absolute carbon footprint remains among the highest globally.
Because even if we aren't all working in coal mines, we are still driving huge commutes, powering massive data centers, and running nonstop logistics for like 2-day shipping.
Precisely. And that PM2.5 pollution is insidious. It enters the bloodstream and triggers chronic systemic inflammation.
So the GDP looks fantastic, but if we deduct the loss of labor and the health expenses caused by this pollution and the modern lifestyle, the real national wealth shrinks.
Considerably. And the biological ledger of this is horrifying. Non-communicable diseases, or NCDs, now account for 88.2% of all deaths.
I just want that to sink in for you listening. 88.2%.
Nearly 9 out of 10 deaths.
From things like cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes.
Yes. It is the ultimate indictment of the modern North American lifestyle. It's this toxic mix of sedentary service jobs, highly processed diets, and environmental degradation.
It's like, okay, imagine a high-performance sports car. That's our economy, right? Moving incredibly fast, looks amazing on the outside, but secretly, the exhaust is leaking toxic fumes straight into the cabin where the driver is sitting.
That is exactly what is happening. The machine works, but it's slowly poisoning the operator.
Which brings us perfectly back to the shocking statistic we started with.
The tripling of maternal mortality.
Right. Slide 9 revisits this. 11 to 30 deaths per 100,000 live births.
And here's the paradox crystallized. The data shows that nearly 100% of these births are attended by skilled medical professionals.
The hospitals are state-of-the-art, so why the deaths?
Because it's a cascading failure. We have to synthesize the entire deep dive to answer this.
Let's break it down. First, the demographic shift.
Right. Mothers are older now because the economic barrier to entry has delayed family planning.
Which inherently introduces higher biological risk.
Exactly. Second, the lifestyle and environmental factors. These mothers are entering pregnancy with a massive baseline of those NCDs we just talked about.
Right. The obesity, the hypertension, the prediabetes.
Yeah. Pregnancy is a massive cardiovascular stress test. If the baseline is compromised by chronic disease and PM2.5 exposure, the margins for error are thin.
And the third factor.
Despite the high total spending, the service economy polarization has led to severe inequality in how medical resources are distributed.
So they might have a great surgeon in the delivery room, but they didn't have access to preventative care for the 20 years prior.
Exactly. The medical system is highly advanced at acute intervention, but completely broken at baseline preventative care.
A 100% medical attendance rate cannot save a population that is chronically ill before they even enter the delivery room.
It simply can't. The biological debt is too high.
This is the aha moment for me. We aren't looking at a failure of doctors or medical technology.
No, we aren't.
We are looking at the biological bill coming due for an unbalanced society. The mother's bodies are just the intersection where all these structural failures collide.
That is a very grim but very accurate way to put it.
So if this is the true equation of modern prosperity, how do we rewrite it? Because slide 14 actually outlines this unbalanced equation for us.
It does. It recaps exactly why the system is in overdraft.
Let's walk through it for the listener. So high GDP plus the service drive equals what?
It equals the illusion of prosperity.
Right. But then you have the other side of the scale.
Aging plus collapsing fertility plus the NCD epidemic plus environmental costs.
And that equals a structural overdraft.
The region is essentially borrowing its current economic shine from its future physical and social health.
It's like putting your entire lifestyle on a credit card, but the interest rate is paid in human biology.
Yes. And eventually, you max out the card.
Which brings us to the final takeaway on slide 15. How do the analysts say we fix this? What is the ultimate policy shift required?
We have to move from scale expansion to resilience building.
From scale to resilience, meaning what, practically?
It means that once a society reaches this level of hyperdevelopment, chasing absolute GDP growth is a trap.
Because more scale just means more extraction from the human foundation.
Exactly. The new metrics of success must be fair, medical resource allocation, proactive aging society systems, and genuine green economic accounting.
Green accounting meaning we actually deduct human health costs from our gross income.
Yes, we have to stop pretending that money spent treating PM2.5 asthma is positive economic growth.
Wow. That completely reframes everything we hear on the news about economic health.
It requires a total paradigm shift.
It really does. Well, as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you, the listener, with a lingering question to ponder on your own.
It's a heavy topic for sure.
It is. So think about this. If the pursuit of endless economic growth eventually begins to consume the health and future of the very people generating it, at what point does a developed nation officially become an overdeveloped one?
That's the real question.
And more importantly, are we already there? Think on that, and we'll catch you next time.